Donald Trump loves to portray himself as an unstoppable force, a tough, unshakable leader who can outmaneuver anyone and control every situation. But the truth is far from that. Behind the public image, what's actually unfolding is growing chaos, confusion, and panic within his inner circle. Trump's political machine is fracturing, and the infighting between his campaign staff and congressional allies is exposing just how weak and unstable his grip on power has become. Right now, we're seeing a full-blown internal conflict, a political civil war within the MAGA movement, fueled by Trump's deep fear of betrayal from those closest to him. One of the clearest examples is his sudden attempt to distance himself from longtime ally Pam Bondi, a move that's left many in his orbit stunned. A recent report reveals mounting tension inside Trump's camp, and how those private cracks are now breaking into public view. Before we dive into the details, including what's happening with Pam Bondi, why she's reportedly under intense pressure, and how her tense back and forth with Congressman Adam Schiff brought all this to light, make sure to like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. Your support helps us keep delivering honest, independent political coverage.
In the hearing with Attorney General Pam Bondi, here are just some of the questions she refused to answer, asked by me and my Democratic colleagues.
I think it's valuable that the American people get a sense of what you've refused to answer today. So these are just some of the questions you refused to answer, or have answered with personal attacks on members of this committee. You were asked whether you consulted with career ethics lawyers, as you promised you would do during your nomination hearing, when you approved the president receiving a $400 million gift from the Qataris. You refused to answer that question. You were asked who or what role you may have played, or who played the role in asking that Trump's name be flagged in any of the Epstein documents gathered by the FBI. You refused to answer that question. You were asked whether Holman kept the $50,000 bribe money. You refused to answer that question. You were asked whether Holman paid taxes on the $50,000 bribe money. You refused to answer that question. You were asked, did career prosecutors find insufficient evidence to charge James Comey? You refused to answer that question. You were asked, how are military strikes on these boats in the Caribbean legal? And you refused to even answer that question.
You were asked, law degree,
excuse me. You were asked, did you discuss indicting James Comey with the president? You refused to answer that question. You were asked, did you approve the firing of antitrust lawyers who disagreed with the Hewlett-Packard merger? You refused to answer that question. You were asked whether you support a restoration fund for violent insurrections to attack the Capitol on January 6th. You refused to answer that question. You were asked whether you were firing career professionals, career prosecutors, just because they worked on January 6th investigations. You refused to answer that question. You were asked by my California colleague whether you believe government officials, like immigration officials, have to abide by court orders. You wouldn't even answer that question. This is supposed to be an oversight hearing.
Pam Bondi is just not good at this. We covered her disastrous hearing in the Senate a few days ago, but stories just continue to come out. The photo that was taken of her notes being like, Reid Hoffman is a donor to the Democrats and he went to dinner with Epstein once. So Trump's decade and multi-dead long relationship with the most prominent pedophile in American history is fine. I guess she just couldn't answer the questions. And as we always say, Pam Bondi, much like everyone in this administration, is playing to an audience of one. So she clearly didn't live up to what Donald Trump expected of her, especially as Trump, as of late, has been tweeting horrible things about Pam Bondi, which were supposed to be DMs, and Bondi all in her feelings. But the latest post goes to show why Donald Trump is abandoning Bondi, as we're about to get into in an article. But first, we got to take a look at this post. Trump wrote, "The Ukraine impeachment of me scam was a far bigger illegal hoax than Watergate. I sincerely hope the necessary authorities, including Congress, are looking into this." Adam Shifty Schiff was so dishonest and corrupt. So many laws and protocols were violated and just plain broken. President DJT. Now, I don't know if that was supposed to be another DM to Pam Bondi, but it's important to recognize that after Trump sent that tweet out, that Truth Social post that was supposed to be a direct message to Pam Bondi, according to the Wall Street Journal, Pam Bondi was upset that Donald Trump said a mean thing about her. Not that the President of the United States was instructing the Attorney General to attack political opponents. No, they were fine with that. It was about the mean message, which is why Pam Bondi is likely very upset. Considering Trump has just given up on her altogether, why Trump's beauty queen prosecutor went behind Bondi back. Donald Trump's new prosecutorial bulldog is showing mounting signs of impatience as she moves at breakneck speed against the president's political enemies. Lindsay Halligan, whom Trump last appointed, a U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, made the decision to file charges against New York Attorney General Letitia James this week without letting either Attorney General Pam Bondi or Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche know ahead of time. She just wanted to get it done. A source with knowledge of the case told the Wall Street Journal Saturday. The newspaper ads originally wanted to indict James in Norfolk, Virginia, where some of her colleagues believe she stood a better chance of getting a conservative jury at trial. Her decision to file in Alexandria instead, where she may now face a more liberal pool of jurors, reportedly followed after she learned that NERF was off the table until sometime next week. A former insurance lawyer who, like Deputy A.G. Blanche, has also worked as Trump's personal defense attorney in the past, Halligan has never prosecuted a case before. Critics have slammed her moves against both James and former FBI Director James Comey as not only a sign of her inexperience, but also her die-hard loyalty to the MAGA leader in a mounting weaponization of the DOJ given the perceived evidentiary weakness of both cases. The Wall Street Journal notes, there may also be practical reasons behind the apparent urgency of Halligan's filings against the president's foes. Her position as U.S. Attorney is technically subject to Senate confirmation, and interim officials are only eligible to serve for 120 days. So, it looks like Donald Trump has brought in yet another loyal spokesperson to carry out his political agenda. Someone with very little experience, and frankly, no clear understanding of the challenges ahead. But what's most interesting here is that Pam Bondi appears to have been quietly replaced. For a long time, Bondi was one of Trump's most visible defenders, but even she seemed hesitant to go as far as some of the more extreme figures in his orbit. Whether that hesitation came from political caution or personal concern, it's clear she's now been sidelined in favor of someone even more willing to follow Trump's direction without question. Pam Bondi, of course, has faced scrutiny in the past for her role in handling sensitive legal matters, including controversies surrounding transparency and access to key case files. Now, her replacement seems unconcerned with optics or outcomes, focusing instead on loyalty above all else. And that, more than experience or competence, appears to be the main qualification for anyone in Trump's inner circle these days. This shift says a lot about how Trump operates. It's not about success or professionalism, but about total devotion. And as political reporter Lawrence O'Donnell recently pointed out, this pattern of promoting loyalty over skill continues to define the culture within Trump's team. And it's already creating new tensions among his closest allies.
Donald Trump's fever dream about today's proceeding was that he would, by ordering the prosecution of James Comey, force James Comey to suffer the humiliation of an arraignment in that federal courtroom today. But the only humiliation in that courtroom was on the Trump side of the courtroom today. The humiliated, silent, inexperienced lawyer rocking in her chair in service to to Donald Trump, the humiliated junior assistant prosecutor who was forced to speak and confess to the judge that he doesn't know what the evidence in the case is. And then the humiliated other assistant federal prosecutor, who's an experienced prosecutor, but who remained silent throughout the 27-minute proceeding. Patrick Fitzgerald is actually the most experienced prosecutor in the room. He's a former prosecutor who prosecuted the governor of Illinois, Rod Blagojevich, on corruption charges. He prosecuted Al-Qaeda in terrorism cases and now appears proudly as James Comey's defense counsel. He told the judge just how incompetent and unprofessional the prosecution has been so far. He said, "We haven't received a single piece of paper of discovery to date. We still haven't been told who person 3 and person 1 are. We don't know the nature of the charges below those charges."
Do these people have any sense of shame left? Actually, what am I even asking? Of course they don't. The truth is, many in the MAGA world seem to thrive on public embarrassment. It's like they wear it as a badge of honor. And for Donald Trump, Lindsey Halligan, and Pam Bondi, this latest moment is just another public misstep, one we'll definitely be talking about right here on this show. If you'd like to support our coverage, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and if you made it all the way to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments, and until next time, I will see you soon.